Hey guys, it's a True Man of Steel here again, and as the title says above, I'm going to be doing my Captain America the Winter Soldier review. 2014 film starring Chris Evans as Captain America, aka Steve Rogers. Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow. Nick Fury as Samuel L. Jackson. Should have said it the other way around. And the brilliant Robert Redford as Alexander Pierce. All right, let's get into this. Positives of the movie. This is going to take a while. The overall story of the movie is, to me, by far the best written Marvel movie ever. Marvel Studios, I mean. Like, just the story alone, going into the movie, I did not know what I was expecting. And I didn't know, okay, if you're watching this, you should have watched the movie by now, because I'm going to be talking a lot about the spoilers. So watching the movie, I was completely unaware of the big spoiler, which is Hydra having infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's something I was not almost ready for, because once Robert Redford's character, Alexander Pierce, started targeting Steve Rogers following the quote-unquote death of Nick Fury, it was just something that I was just like, whoa, why'd I have to go over there? Because they make it off to where, because the trailers made it seem like Robert Redford was going to be the villain. I'm like, okay, he's more than likely the villain. Then the beginning of the movie, it's like, okay, he seems like a good guy, so maybe not. But then, out of nowhere, he's like, no matter what happens, I don't remember what this line was. He was basically threatening Captain America, if he doesn't tell him what he wants, because Nick Fury is his friend and he cares about his friend. And I'm like, okay, so maybe he's a darker hero. But then it's revealed that, he's Hydra. He's one of the leaders of Hydra, at least in S.H.I.E.L.D. He's one of the highest ranking members of Hydra in S.H.I.E.L.D. And from then on, I'm just like, whoa, are they really Hydra? You weren't, I wasn't expecting it at all. Another big positive for me is the performances of Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson in their respective roles. And this is the best Chris Evans has acted as the character so far. Especially, given, the context of the movie, it's Captain America, post-Avengers. He's been trying to adapt to the modern world for some time now, and he has for the most part, but of course he's struggling at times, struggling with even, what does it mean to do the right thing? And to him, it's always been, just following orders and trying to do good, try to make the world a better place. And right now, at this point, Steve's kind of questioning that, and, where should his allegiance lie? Because, of course, he thought it was easier just to come back and just follow orders and have it be just how it was back during World War II, but it's not the same. And there's that great moment when he goes to the old folks' home and he visits Peggy, and of course, that's a very that was the emotional scene for me, because Hayley Atwell as Peggy Carter, I loved her performance in the first Captain America movie, and it carries over into this for the brief part that she's in it, and she's just she basically really reassures Steve that, you know what, we messed the world up, but you know what, you've always been, that good person, you saved the world multiple times, you have what it takes in you. Because he was the first person he really talked to about those issues that he had, because, of course, Peggy is his first love. And for me, that's something that is a big part to me. When you have someone you can vent to, and when you, in a world where you don't know who to trust, it's nice to see that Steve at least has Peggy still. Even at a really old age, he still has Peggy who he can trust. And having Peggy help found S.H.I.E.L.D. is even he even says is one of the reasons that he stays. So of course the plot starts moving on from that point, and Nick Fury explains to Steve briefly the plans, what the plans are with the three helicarriers, and how the S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to wipe out a lot of threats before they can even happen. And that's where Steve really begins to question his alliance. That's where he says, this isn't freedom, this is fear. Because by fearing, making the world afraid of you, that's not freedom. That's just exactly what he says. It's fear. You're making the people fearful of you. And that really connects with the modern day audience, because that's kind of what governments are doing right now. That sort of thing. This movie connects. This is one of the most relatable Marvel movies to date, because it makes you questions who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. Especially with governments. and everyone has their questions of like, what does it mean to be a good person? What does it mean, like, who can I trust? Like, am I really fighting for the right cause? And this movie really makes a person question all that. And just another major thing I had to have to address is Anthony Mackie as the Falcon. He was the one thing I was worried about when they cast him. I'm like, the Falcon in this universe? I'm like, because I'm not like the biggest Marvel comic book fan, so I don't know much about the characters beyond reading a few comics here and there and like looking at their Wikipedia page and reading some comics. So I knew the basic origin of the Falcon character, but I never really knew the history of him. And when I heard that they announced Anthony Mackie cast the Falcon, I'm like, oh, okay, we'll see. Like, do the whole like he can talk to birds thing, which they didn't do, thank God, because that'd be kind of weird, and it wouldn't fit with the movie. But the fact, like in the first scene in the movie, when him and Steve are running around the National Mall, and Steve's like, on your left, like overlapping them a bunch of different times. He's like, and they finally stop. He's like, "You taking another lap?" I'm just like, I'm assuming you just took it. I'm just like, wow. Like, at first, I didn't even know that was him. And then when they finally show him, like with his Falcon wings, which is basically like a high-powered jetpack, but with expandable wings, I'm like, that's a very practical way of doing it. Obviously, it's not real, but they came out really well. Like, I'm really glad the character didn't come out cheesy, like especially the way that like they connect him and Steve. That like they're both in the army, of course, at different times. But the fact that they're both like they come home and it's like not the same, and like it's hard like adapting after being gone for so long and being in such a different place, and then coming back and like you're almost in a strange world, even though you're technically home. And the coolest thing about that is that like he trusts Steve like with his life. Like when he comes to his house, he's just like, "Come in," like, and just like I was like, "I'm gonna help you guys out." Like him and Black Widow's like, "I'm helping you guys out," and he shows him the Falcon stuff. He's like, "That was you?" He's like, "Yep." He's like, "I thought you said you were a pilot," and he's like, "I never said pilot." But negatives of the movie, there are not that many, and the ones I do have like are really nitpicky. I feel that the Sharon Carter character was a little underused. I guess they're just like setting the character up, nothing more than that. Other than that, I really don't find any other negatives, other than the fact they underused the Sharon Carter character. Other than that, I don't have any real gripes with it. The one thing that does kind of confuse me though is when Captain America comes out with his old World War II suit towards the end for the third act. He comes out of it, and his suit has an extra stripe goes right down. Because if you remember Captain America, the first Avenger, he has like the little belt things that connect, and then they become the red stripes down here. But in this movie, he has a third stripe. I mean, that's kind of like a minor thing, but that was just something that kind of confused me. So yeah, those are my positives, negatives. Overall, this is a really great movie. To me, it's the best Marvel movie to date. It's like the Dark Knight of these movies, like quality wise and how well it's written and directed. The action is so good on so many different levels. Just like Steve running around, going from helicarrier to helicarrier as if it's like no problem, and then like the Falcon looks great in action. We had Scarlett Johansson in this movie. This is her best performance as the Black Widow. Because even initially, it's like you don't know if you can trust her because you don't know where her allegiance lies. But as the movie goes on, you see the just like Steve. It's like the more that happens, the more you're just like, you know what, like I can trust her. Like, she's like, do you trust me? And like, he's like, now I do. And that's the very end. And then the little Arnim Zola cameo in the middle of the movie that kind of like explains everything. And oh my God, how could I not mention this? The second title character, the Winter Soldier. He came out so badass. All of his action stuff was great. Like Sebastian Stan did a really good job for the most part. I mean, my only gripes there was that like I wish he had more dialogue. The dialogue he had was great. It was just I feel like the plot, there was so much going on in the movie that just like I guess it's understandable that they didn't exactly have enough for him to say. But with the Winter Soldier came out great, and like the fact that even like each time like when they like reset him, and the fact that he's been like a secret agent of Hydra for all this time and like assassinating Howard Stark and assassinating presidents and world leaders over the last like 50 years. or 60, 70 years, whatever it may be. And the fact that, like Robert Redford's character kept like resetting his memory, and like in the second time he fought off against Cap, like he even knew like deep down like he knew who he was, and in the end like he saves Cap's life after he falls into the water from the helicarriers, and it's just the looks on his face, just like, Sebastian Stan just does such a good job with what he's given. It's just I can't wait to see what they do with the character in the third Captain America movie. Overall, this movie was my favorite Marvel movie to date. It's not my favorite movie of this year, unfortunately. That goes to another movie which I'm going to be doing a review for soon. But this movie, I have to give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's one of my favorite superhero movies. It's at least in my top 5 so far right now. Again, Sebastian Stan was a great Winter Soldier. Nick Fury had some good lines for the amount of time he was there. Actually, that's another thing I kind of wanted to address, is the fact that like they had to kill off, quote unquote, Nick Fury. It's like, how many times are you going to kill off a character in a Marvel movie just for him to come back? Even though I know he didn't really die, but it's like, come on. But it's cool. Like the way the movie ended was great. Like Shield's basically gone, which made me like wonder like, oh, like how's that gonna affect like the Shield's show, because it's about the agency Shield. So I don't know how that's gonna work. But anyways, again, overall great movie. Chris Evans is like him and Scarlett Johansson had such great chemistry throughout the whole thing. It was really well written, well directed by guys who started on that show freaking Community. Like I was not expecting the movie to be this good. Again, 9.5 out of 10. I have nothing more to say about it. It's a really great movie. If you guys haven't seen it, I hope you watch it. And you know what? Just go out and watch it. If you have or you haven't, just go out and watch it, please. All right, guys, that'll be it from me. You'll hear from me soon. And have a good one, guys.